Today I'm gonna share the story about my video game addiction and how I was able to break away from it in university, and how now, studying from home, I'm able to continue having it under control. Before I start, I wanted to plug the Apex of Man podcast. It's a podcast I started with one of my friends where we have more casual conversations, more long-form conversations on all of these topics: productivity, self-development, lifestyle design, habits, routines, all of these fantastic things. And we actually had a conversation about our video game addiction because we were both quite addicted to video games, and we truly came to some really interesting conclusions. So I really recommend you check it out. It's going to be linked down below. Again, the Apex of Man podcast. It's on any podcast platform that you guys listen to, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. It's absolutely everywhere. So it's a no-brainer. It's going to be linked down below, and I truly suggest that you follow us on the podcast as well. It's a weekly podcast on all of these fantastic big ideas, productivity, self-development. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a more casual way of dealing with these videos, and a little extra content that I know will bring you guys a lot more value. So if you're interested in a longer version of this video, check it down below. So video games are, in my opinion, the best form of entertainment, bar none. No HBO, no Netflix, no Hulu, no social media. All of that, to me, it's a little irrelevant. It's never appealed to me. Video games are such a cool part of entertainment where you can actually be invested in the story. You feel like you're a hero and you actually impact the world that was created for this story. It's something that is so deeply engaging and so deeply addictive because of this engagement that it's really hard to have that healthy habit and have those routines that enable you to enjoy video games but not go completely overboard in excess and become an absolutely unproductive waste man. You see, I know quite a few people who've spent over 2,000 hours on a single video game. I have close friends who have spent over 300 hours playing Borderlands, for example, playing Fortnite, playing all these things. And for myself, I know I've spent over 100 hours on many of these games that you can really get just completely deeply entrenched in this world and almost forget to live your own life. And as I always mention on this channel, you need to understand the economic value of your time, because every hour you spent playing video games is an hour you could have spent doing something else. The opportunity cost is really high. You could have spent it learning an instrument. You could have spent it playing a sport. You could have spent it mastering a craft, or building a side hustle, or building a business. Many options for you to do different things, and you were stuck playing video games. Again, I don't believe that just quitting video games entirely is a solution or is anything that would be positive to anybody, because we receive so much fulfillment and so much engagement from these games. But since the opportunity cost is so big, I wanted to talk about 5 tips that I found that really helped me create a system around video games. Makes it a much healthier pastime, and it doesn't allow video games to take control of my life, take control of my time, and just completely drain me from all other opportunities that I could be involved in to truly be successful and effective individual. But before we get into the 5 tips, if you're new here, my name is Diego and this is Apex of Man. I'm an undergraduate studying business and computer science in Boston University, and if you're obsessed with productivity, self-development, lifestyle design, all of those great things, be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. New videos out every single week. Let's go. Number 1, environmental design. I have spoken about environmental design on this channel quite a bit, but environmental design is essentially the concept of creating an environment around yourself that is the most conducive towards your productivity, towards your happiness, and towards your effectiveness. So for example, if you're living in a small dorm and you have your monitor there and you have your Xbox there, try and create as much friction as you can so that when you sit down in the desk, you're actually going to work. You're not playing Xbox. So for example, I've spoken about this. Right here in this room, I have a monitor right here in front of me, and I also have my Xbox connected already to the monitor. However, my Xbox controller, which is the interface that you use to control the entire Xbox, so it's the Xbox is essentially useless without it, is stuck over there in that closet. It's inside a box, inside a box, inside a box. So the friction of me actually having to go back here and opening the closet and taking out the box is enough for me not to play video games during the week, for example. So I do this because I try to separate and create as much friction as I can, again, creating systems that prevent you from engaging in video games all the time and it being so easy, because nowadays it's so easy to get distracted. You put your hand in your pocket, you pull out your phone, you can watch Netflix, Hulu, you can get all of the entertainment that you want or don't even want in your pocket at any single point in time. It's so easy that we need to start building this friction. We need to start creating these obstacles so that we are more effective in dealing with these vices and dealing with these addictions. Because relying on willpower alone is not going to cut it. So let's jump to tip number 2. If you are a student, if you're a young person, your parents are paying for absolutely everything. And when your parents pay for absolutely everything, you start spending with no discretionary mindset. So you start spending on whatever you want. And you know that your parents, if they're comfortable enough economically, you can buy a game for 20 bucks or 30 bucks basically whenever you want. And you can invest in those games and buy Fortnite skins and all of these things because your parents are paying for it. And it doesn't hurt your pocket. When you start earning money and having your own bank account and actually linking your credit card or your debit card to the Xbox, to the Microsoft account, and to those video game purchases, it starts hurting a hell of a lot more. And evidently, you have a lot less money than your parents. You're gonna be controlling that expenditure a lot more effectively. Because if you want to change a habit, put money on the line. Believe me, it's one of the easiest ways to change a bad habit. So if you have a bank account and you have a debit card, be sure to exchange your parents' information for your own information and ensure that when you make a purchase, it is coming out of your own pocket. That way you will not be tempted to buy all of these new games that are coming out or these new Fortnite skins or fall into these flash sales on the Microsoft store, the PlayStation store that actually they just continue getting your money and you are consuming into a system that is so addictive. So put money on the line. Number 3, organize in-person activities with your friends. If they can be sports, a physical activity, even better. Right now, studying online and studying from home is really hard. All of us are having a lot of trouble trying to keep our physical activity levels up. So we're essentially falling into the trap of doing the more sedentary hobbies and the more sedentary activities such as playing video games. Video games will keep you stuck in your room. Yes, you can play online and you can play Fortnite with friends and it's a really enjoyable experience, and if they are in another country, it's a wonderful way to reconnect. However, if this is your sole social outlet, not only will you not be developing the social skills that you need, but you won't feel the physical benefits of doing physical exercise and physical activity. Physical activity will create so many positive repercussions and it will become a positive feedback loop that you will release endorphins, you will feel stronger, you will be stronger, you will look better, and you will want to continue doing these in-person activities. And especially nowadays, you need to organize these in-person sport events as much as you can and try and get out there. Try and get out of your room, get out of your dorm, because in the end, you're gonna probably enjoy it a lot more than playing a video game, and it will be the substitution of a bad habit with a better habit. This is something that Charles Duhigg talks a lot about in The Power of Habit, an absolutely fantastic book on how to create systems that actually work in terms of breaking those vices. So be sure to exchange video games for physical activity, sports, and exercise. Number 4 is a crucial tip that I apply every single week. Only play video games on the weekends. It's absolutely necessary because during the week, you need to be focused on your work. You need to be entirely focused on your academics, on your extracurriculars, on your searches for internships, on your networking building. You need to be focused on those really high value, high leverage things that are gonna take you and propel you forward. And then in terms of leisure, you can leave that to the weekend. Try and reduce that leisure time as much as possible. And if you are playing video games during the weekends, make sure that during that day you finished all of the work that you needed to finish, so that when you actually sit down and play video games, you can enjoy the hell out of it without feeling any guilt or any remorse, because you know that you should have been doing something else. Because time consciously spent is not wasted time. So be sure to absolutely crush your week, do all of the things that you need to do, and then in the weekend, relax a little bit, play a little video game. But don't play for 6 hours on end, maybe break it up and do smaller sessions, then go out, get some sport in, get some sunlight, get that vitamin D, then play a little more and crush those 12-year-old kids in Fortnite and get those victory royales and those dubs, baby. Now the 5th tip that I want to give you is one that really worked for me, is simply not taking your Xbox or PlayStation to university. When I'm at university, I don't have any video games, so I know that there is absolutely no way that I can fall into this addiction. Even then, when you don't have your Xbox, their friends have their Xbox there, so sometimes you fall into a little FIFA or a little Fortnite, and it's bad. It's pretty bad sometimes. But if you don't have it in your dorm, if you don't have it close to you, the friction is the highest it can be, unless you unless you spend and invest in another Xbox at your dorm room and you have that spare money, and well, I can't help you there. But definitely something that has helped for me is not taking my Xbox to university. Right now, I'm in Spain, in my home country, and I have my Xbox here, so I've created other systems that build friction and are part of the tips that I just mentioned. But if you're going to university that is far away from your home, don't take your video game console. Don't take your Xbox, don't take your PlayStation. It's just too much temptation. I know, at least for me, I don't have the willpower to not sit down almost every day and pop some Forza Horizon or pop some Fortnite or pop some whatever game it is, some Borderlands. All of these games are so addictive to me that I just cut it off entirely when I'm going to university, and I'm much better for it. I've been able to engage in so many more things, go to many more activities, meet many more people, play more soccer, which I love, do more networking opportunities, do all of these wonderful things that I probably wouldn't have been as engaged or as involved in if I would have taken my Xbox console. So that was it for me. Those were 5 tips that I used to break away from my video game addiction and become a really, really effective and killer student at university. And these are the tips I suggest you follow to do exactly the same. Video games are a big vice and we need to get it under control. Again, if you're interested in a longer form conversation on this topic, on video game addiction, escapism, how we can build better escapes as opposed to drugs, alcohol, and do more productive things when we want to take some time off, to wind down, to have a little leisure. If you want to hear that conversation, make sure to check the Apex of Man podcast below. It's going to be linked. It's on every single podcast platform that you know, so be sure to check it out. It's a wonderful podcast that I started with one of my best friends. We have absolutely fantastic conversations, and you're absolutely gonna get a ton of value from it, so be sure to check it out. And if you're interested in more college related videos, be sure to check this one out on how I got a 4.0 GPA at Boston University during quarantine, and be sure to check this other one on the 5 hacks I used to improve my quarantine routine. Thank you so much for your support and getting to the end. See you in the next video.